it's Noam or Bondi or Trump himself, the Trump administration is pretty much hell-bent on discrediting whistleblowers and anyone who is out there sharing information with the press and the public. And there is good reason for that, because the Trump administration has made lying the norm. People inside the government, officials being brave enough to speak to the press, is the only way we know what is actually happening inside the Trump administration. I mean, every example I've cited so far, the slow FEMA response in Texas, ICE supervisors directing their agents to go after non-criminals rather than actual criminals, that new evidence that Emil Bovee directed DOJ lawyers to defy court orders. This is a guy up for an appointment to be a judge. Those all came out in just the past 24 hours. Just the past 24 hours. And if we zoom out, if we look at what we have learned just in the past 6 months of Trump's new term, so much of it we only know because of public servants who spoke out, whether anonymously or through the whistleblower process or even in public. Without them, we wouldn't know what is really going on inside the administration. We wouldn't know that an assessment written by U.S. intelligence agencies contradicted Trump's justification for deporting immigrants to prison in El Salvador, or that Trump Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard fired the officials who wrote that assessment, or that her chief of staff pushed intelligence officials to rewrite that assessment to make it look better for Trump.
Everything that Donald Trump and his administration have told us about Jeffrey Epstein has been a lie. In the latest bombshell report about the footage released by Donald Trump and Pam Bandy is the biggest lie yet, because they are doing everything they can to not only distract the public from potentially the biggest scandal of this administration so far, but to lie and to deceive the public about the information, or really lack thereof, that they are giving us in this latest scandal. What was revealed about the footage released, not just the fact that it had a minute missing, but something more sinister just dropped in a report that we're going to get into. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, because it goes a long way in supporting the work that we're doing on the show. Now, before we can get into that report, I want to start with why Donald Trump is trying to cover up what just got seen in this footage, and it's because of how many people are talking about his scandal.
What a massive, unforced error by the Trump administration. Donald Trump would love this story to go away, but in fact, interest is climbing higher and higher, to quote Jackie Wilson. Look at this. Google searches for Epstein up 1,200% this week versus last. And get this, it is currently the top topic search with Trump on Google alongside his presidency. So Donald Trump normally, leans in stories in which there's controversy, like tariffs, for example. This is a story in which he's trying to get away from, basically saying, why is anyone still interested in this story? But the bottom line is people are very interested in this story to historic degrees, at least this week.
Give us some perspective. You see that 1,200 number about other stories in comparison, how people are viewing this one.
Yeah, okay. So, I mentioned tariffs earlier on, right? Epstein has been Googled a lot since Monday. He has actually been Googled 1.4 times as much as tariffs has been Googled. And that is, of course, a huge news story. How about Grok, which is another insane news story this week? I mean, my goodness gracious. But in fact, Epstein has been Googled 2.5 times as much as the Grok story has been Googled. So the bottom line is this is a story in which there's a lot of interest. And it's one of the few stories in which both Steve Bannon and Elon Musk are going after Trump. At least the Trump administration, he's managed to bring together two parts of the administration or two parts of the fan base that have normally been against each other.
Yeah, you can bet on anything, and this proves it. What are you seeing as far as whether or not people think that they will actually release these Epstein files?
Yeah, I know my buddy Vin from Jersey would love for the Trump administration to release more Epstein files. But get this, Trump releasing more Epstein files in 2025. This is the betting market odds. You go back 2 months ago, it was 43%. You go back even a month ago, it was 39%. But now it's just at 20%. I think that there are going to be a lot of the normally MAGA fan base who are going to be very disappointed. And this is all a self-inflicted error by Trump and the Trump administration.
Many in the administration were pushing all these conspiracy theories, promising bombshells when they got into office, and nothing.
It turns out what goes around sometimes comes around when you push conspiracy theories.
That is true. All right, Harry Enton, it is a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, my friend.
Over to you, Kate.
We just came out of one of the biggest news months of Trump's presidency, his feud with Elon Musk, sending thugs into LA, and a birthday parade no one attended. Yet this news story has topped them all in searches and engagement. What's key for Democrats is that it's reaching people who don't usually follow news, not folks reading the Washington Post or watching political YouTubers. It's even flipping MAGA supporters, finally showing them they've been lied to by this cult-like administration. One big lie from Pam Bandy about new footage is now backfiring badly. We need to look at what she said in that cabinet meeting. This clip is right here.
A minute missing from the video. We released the video showing definitively the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night.
So of course we saw that initial reporting about the 1 minute that was gone from the end of the Epstein footage that was released from the DOJ. But we thought it stopped there. That was incredibly suspicious. Pam Bandy's answer was just a nothing burger, saying that the cameras don't work. Sure, the cameras always do that. They cut a minute, but it was more like a minute and 2 seconds. But why do they do it at the end of the night? It doesn't make any sense at all. But what Pam Bandy did say with absolute certainty is this was the raw footage, the uncut. We're giving you everything is what Pam Bandy has said. Said we're giving you everything, and that means that we're not giving you an Epstein list because it doesn't exist. That's the argument they're making. They're giving us everything unfiltered, untouched. But that's not true. According to this leaked report, metadata shows the FBI's raw Jeffrey Epstein prison video was likely modified. The United States Department of Justice this week released nearly 11 hours of what it described as full raw surveillance footage from a camera position near Jeffrey Epstein's prison cell the night before he was found dead. The release was intended to address conspiracy theories about Epstein's apparent suicide and federal custody. But instead of putting those suspicious to rest, it may fuel them even further. Metadata embedded in the video and analyzed by Wired and independent video forensic experts shows that rather than being a direct export from the prison surveillance system, the footage was modified, likely using the professional editing tool Adobe Premiere Pro. The file appears to have been assembled from at least 2 source clips, saved multiple times, exported, and then uploaded to the DOJ's website, where it was presented as quote-unquote raw footage. For months leading up to the joint memo the DOJ and FBI published Monday, Attorney General Pam Bandy had promised the release of the records related to Epstein, raising expectations that new potentially incriminating details might surface about the disgraced financee's death and his ties to powerful individuals. However, rather than revealing new information, the memo largely confirmed conclusions reached years ago that Epstein was found in a Manhattan prison cell on August 10, 2019, and died by suicide while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. To support its conclusion, the FBI reviewed surveillance footage overlooking the common area of the special housing unit at the Metropolitan Correctional Center where Epstein was held. The FBI enhanced the footage by adjusting contrast, color, and sharpness, and released both the enhanced and what it described as the raw version. Both versions of the video appear to have been processed using Premiere, and including much of the same metadata. According to the FBI, anyone entering the area constraining Epstein's cell during the relevant time frame would have been visible on that camera. The embedded data, though, suggests the video is not a continuous, unaltered export from a surveillance system, but a composite assembled from at least 2 separate MP4 files. The metadata includes references to Premiere Pro projects. These entries appear under a metadata section labeled Ingredients, part of Adobe's internal schema for tracking source material used in edited exports. The metadata does not make clear where in the video the 2 clips were spliced together. So what can we even know if Pam Bandy is offering up half-hearted answers of where is the missing footage, that the footage is raw, it's unedited, but in fact, that's not true. And that's probably going to be a little bit more difficult considering something that Jen Psaki broke down, what's happening with whistleblowers in this video.
We wouldn't know any of that. Without sources willing to speak out, we wouldn't know that the Pentagon nearly briefed Elon Musk, a private citizen with tons of business interests in China, on the U.S. military's plans, should war ever break out with China. That very bad, horrible, conflict of interest idea of a briefing was reportedly then called off, presumably, probably, because it was reported in the press. Funny how that works. Without these public servants, we wouldn't know about all of the myriad of ways that Trump's mass firings and Elon Musk's Doge were gutting entire agencies in the federal government. We wouldn't know their obsession with acquiring everybody's data. We wouldn't know about that. On a near daily basis, we are seeing an increasing number of small but significant acts of bravery to get the truth out there, which is why we've seen Trump and his cabinet repeatedly try to stamp that out. Officials across the administration are using polygraph tests, it's been reported, to attempt to flesh out even the smallest of leaks. And at the FBI, Director Kash Patel is reportedly using polygraph tests to not only mitigate unflattering press, but also to screen employees for loyalty. And it's not just going after individuals, but the agencies in place that are in place to protect whistleblowers. Back in February, Trump fired 18 inspectors general across the government. We all remember that. It was a long time ago, it seems like, but it did happen. Those are the independent watchdogs within government agencies who investigate allegations of impropriety within their departments, and they are critical to protecting whistleblowers. And now Trump is looking to take over another independent body that protects whistleblowers, the Office of Special Counsel, which is supposed to operate as a secure channel for federal employees to disclose potential wrongdoing without fear of retaliation. It's really no surprise, I guess, that Trump has nominated this guy to lead the office. Meet Paul Ingrassia. He is 30 years old with barely a year of government experience under his belt. He currently works as the White House liaison for the Department of Homeland Security. And while that sounds important, it is not a senior job in any way, shape, or form. If he sounds a little unqualified to run the 110-person office that for nearly 50 years has been the agency for whistleblowers and alleged ethics violations, well, hold on to your hat, because it gets much worse. Back in 2023, Ingrassia worked with the legal team defending Manosphere influencer, accused rapist, and human trafficker Andrew Tate. He posted this picture of the two of them on Instagram with the glowing caption, "Andrew Tate is an extraordinary human being." If that doesn't give you enough sense of this guy's worldview, this guy's judgment, where he stands, here is a sampling of his activity on Elon Musk's X. Last year, on the anniversary of September 11th, Ingrassia shared a video of conspiracy theorist Alex Jones claiming that 9/11 was an inside job. He also said things like, quote, "Being anti-Trump is the biggest dog whistle in politics for anti-white racism." Okay. And last year for Pride Month, Ingrassia posted, "Certain behaviors are righteous and should be encouraged. Others are wrong and should be stigmatized and condemned." As for his writing, Ingrassia has written his fair share of fawning pieces about Trump. He's also argued that January 6 rioters were politically persecuted and that white supremacist and anti-Semite Nick Fuentes has been wrongly censored.
Donald Trump will do everything possible to suppress the truth in this moment. Everything is possible can which make independent media covering everything that is happening all the more important. It's what we are doing on this show. Thanks for watching this video, and if you stuck around at the end, you can drop the blue heart in the comments, and until next time, I will see you soon.